Video 18. Reinforcement for slab. Mesh. In the previous lesson, we draw rebar for a typical slab by a single regional rebar placement method. And for today's lesson, we're going to use another method of laying rebar for slabs, rebar mesh. According to some design standards and customer requirements in placing rebar in slab, many constructions do not use rebars, but use meshes. Basically, the meshes is also made up of reinforcing layers. In construction works, rebar meshes will be placed according to each module. This will speed up construction and save costs. Allplan also supports rebar mesh drawing tool, and the operation is almost the same with regional bar placing as previous lessons. Before you begin drawing rebar for slab, you also determine the range to draw. Create sections and dimensions. The top layer rebar you hide goes by reinforcement tools. Select Hide Rebar in a specific view. Our area to draw is here. And switch to the rebar mesh drawing file for the bottom layer. Similar to rebar's straight, you choose here to set rebar mesh for slab in spans. We also click to determine the mesh boundaries. Continue to set up the mesh level. Finally, specify parameters for the mesh dimension used in the slab. Direction of the placing rebar for meshes. The name of meshes. Rebar connection in 2 directions. The total length of the placing zone. And here is the length and width of the first mesh. You create the mesh for subsequent spans in the slab. Elevation definition. Define the parameters. You can enter the same earlier. Edge or support positions, here is beams. We also have a meshes tool for these positions. Select View. Define levels and parameters. Currently, only straight rebar mesh. Bending like rebars in the previous post is not available, so currently not using this tool. Besides, you can use the mesh shape tool to draw and manipulate completely similar to bar shape for each bar. Choose the shape, dimension, concrete cover. Then, put in cross-section and place for the mesh. However, because of the structural characteristics of each slab, you cannot place meshes through beams as it will collide with rebar in beams. So here, I will delete the edge mesh and replace it by the method of placing rebars straight. You will use the draw bar tool for edge and support as the previous lesson. Select View, Position, select Reinforcement Direction. Elevation definition. And pay attention to define the parameters for edge rebar. Label the rebar. Similarly, we set up for other positions or copy/mirror. Finally, we label the reinforcement mesh and rebars straight. Note: automatic selection, text direction and show mark, the name of mesh. I would also like to add, for the plate components, slab wall, in addition to the main rebar and additional rebars, we need to put spacer rebar between the top and bottom layers to avoid unwanted deflection of rebars layers. For slabs, there are usually two types of prefabricated rebar mesh in sets. The example structure is as follows: distance 70 centimeters, size length 2 meters, and details placed in the slab will be specified accordingly. Now, you just need to measure the slab area and then divide 2 times 0.7 meters. We'll calculate the number of spacer for mesh nets to put. The second way, which is the rebars, has the following shape. We do the same as the previous rebars straight. For rebar spacer for walls, we also have a conventional structure on the number of square meters as follows. Include S-hook and spacer. Then measure the area of the wall and divide it to calculate the number. You also create with the bar shape command and assign a quantity. By command, modify mark. Above, I draw the bottom layer for meshes of slab. The remaining parts you make the same way. So here, we have done the mesh for reinforced concrete slabs. Next lesson, foundation.